high holidays, understanding the high holidays, and having a deeper look at the high holidays. And so it's an appropriate time to do so because in the synagogue life, in the synagogue world, that's actually where we are. We're thinking about, okay, what's the holidays going to look like next year? And so it's timely. And so we'll think about the purpose and meaning of the high holidays. We'll try to do so, as if this was a normal time of on the globe. And then we'll kind of do the math and say, okay, what are high holidays going to look like this year, given what we are looking to get out of them. And so this will help me also with the decision making that we're going to start doing about what the high holidays are going to look like this year. So let's understand what they're all about and what our intention is and what their purpose is, and from there we'll make better decisions. So here we go. Let's share the screen. Let me pull that up. Toda. It's nice to see you. All right, I have to focus on getting this stuff on the computer. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's not the right one. All right, I'm close. PowerPoint, okay. There we go. Class 10, starting over. Everybody see that? All right, here we go. Starting over, high holidays, right? Every year we get to start anew. And what an amazing thing that is. In many religious pathways and in many just Western civilization and philosophy, the world is cyclical. Right, we go round and round and round, and we're destined for a certain reality, but not in Judaism. In Judaism, we have an opportunity to restart, to press that, just like a computer, right? I gave a sermon about that once. It's like turning off your computer and pressing restart, and you're rebooting yourself, your hardware, your software, and it's an opportunity to restart, right? To start over. And what an amazing thing that is, and what a gift that is.
Rabbi, we're not seeing anything on your screen. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, no, thank you for that. Let's see if I can start over here.
Yeah, it's okay now.
Easy me. Yeah, now I gotta see the PowerPoint too. Okay. Oh, I'll put it on my. Give me a minute. Sorry, folks. I wish I was a computer native. Nobody else wondering. But alas, I'm an immigrant and struggle with the language. So here we go.
Yeah, it's still not showing the PowerPoint for some reason.
Yeah, not going there.
It
Okay.
just says your screen sharing.
So weird. Okay, so let me try getting it from somewhere else. Anybody have any clues there? Let me try getting it through here. Yeah.
Now you are full screen.
I think you got the PowerPoint open, right? And then you just go to it.
That's the key. Yeah, it's not open. Yeah, let me open it.
Rabbi, are you on a Mac or a PC?
I'm on a Mac.
Did you recently do an update and you need to change the privacy settings so that it can share your screen?
Oh.
I can walk you through that. I do this all the time at work.
Yeah, one second. Let's see if this works. I have it open, and now I'm going to try sharing. I don't see it for some reason. That's so weird. Why don't I have? Okay, one more time. It is open.
If you want on your Mac, there's a setting that usually causes this.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How's that? Does that work?
Nope, still can't.
Okay. So help me out. Yeah, please.
Or if you hit the Apple icon at the top left and go to System Preferences.
Yeah.
And then go to Security and Privacy, the lock at the right-hand side, or the house.
Yep.
and then go to the privacy tab,
Yeah, say house. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
and then go to the
Privacy.
screen recording after you go to the
recording.
privacy tab.
Got it.
And if the lock at the bottom left is locked, click it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's already unlocked, that's fine.
It was locked. Yeah.
And then do you see where it says screen recording in that list on the left?
Sure do.
All right. In the list on the right, do you see Zoom in there?
Yep.
Does it have a check next to it?
It does.
Try unchecking it and rechecking it.
Mhm. Well, it didn't before, but now it does.
So now it has a check.
Yeah.
Great.
You
Did
can
it say
see.
you have to restart Zoom?
Okay. Do I have to log back in?
You
Or
can
just,
try.
it
Did it
again?
did it warn you that you have to reset or
Yeah.
restart Zoom? Yep. If you leave
Yeah.
and rejoin it and quit Zoom
Uh-huh.
all the way, by hitting the name of the app at the top left, then quit,
Mhm.
and then when you come back, it should work.
Okay. So I'll be back in a minute. How's that sound?
Pardon me, Charles. Could you try muting yourself for a second?
Sure.
Thank you. There's a bit of a humming in the background.
All
We can see the
right,
screen.
there we go.
How'd we do? Good.
Thank you, Rabbi. I do this all day with coworkers at work.
How did I do? I'm a good student. Yeah.
It's a privacy setting, but it's painful. Thank you.
Good. So days of awe, right, is one of the ways it's the Yamim Noraim, right? So we refer to them as high holidays. Like it says, we rise in holiness. Right? So high holidays, we're in a higher plane. I guess that's what that means. But technically, in Hebrew, they're called the Yamim Noraim, which means that Nora means awe or awesome. They're awesome days, days filled with awe, right? And so what's awe, right? Oh, we know awe. Awe is like what we see in nature. Here's the PowerPoint slide that you can see so beautifully. Thank you, Adam. Awe, right? The clap of thunder and the starry night in the desert, right? Baby being born, right? These are moments of awe, right? Holding someone's hand as they die, right? These are liminal moments between heaven and earth, between this world and the next world, between life and death, and non-existence in life, right? Birth, oh my God, something just being born, right? So these are the oh my God moments of awe are what we're after on the high holidays. That's what we're after, to be living on a higher consciousness, to be living on a deeper, in a deeper space, right? And so all of a sudden I just switched, you notice that? I switched the verticality of the metaphor, right? Sometimes we use deep, right? Amok means deep and meaningful, and high means high and holy. Either way, it means like away from where we are, right? Transcendent. transcendent, right? And we don't need to use a vertical plane. We just mean like opening up our minds, right? And so that's to other realities that are all around us, is an awesome experience that we're after on the days of awe, right? And so here's sort of the outline of how it works. It's 40 days. Why is it 40 days? Well, it starts at the beginning of the month of Elul. The beginning of the month of Elul is the day before Tishrei. Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah. Is the first of Tishrei is the new year. And so the last month of the year is Elul, right? And so that's our preparatory month for the new beginning. And so the theory here is it takes 40 days for us to gear up. That's the runway for the high holy days, for the days of awe. So the assumption there is that it requires preparation. One can't just experience the transcendent moment out of the blue. It requires preparation. And so in Hebrew, we call that cheshbon hanefesh, calculations of the soul, accounting of the soul, a soul account, right? To see where, check your cosmic temperature to see where you're at. How am I doing in this world? And so sometimes we can view it, again, the metaphor as vertical, which is we usually live our lives here on the runway, right? But there's another way to live, which is 10,000 feet above the runway, where we're seeing a bigger picture, 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, 50, right? So we want to get to the highest high holy days that we can get, the most broad perspective that we can find, right? And so that's what Cheshbon HaNefesh does for us. It helps us take a soul accounting of where we're at in this world from a long view, and that requires some effort, right? And consciousness raising. And so there we go. From the beginning of Elul until Rosh Hashanah, the month of Elul is our time to raise our consciousness and to live a little bit higher, deeper, right? Transcendent, deliberate. And so then hits Rosh Hashanah, and that's our entryway into the actual high holy days, which are Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And they're 10 days apart. And those are the 10 days of Teshuvah, the 10 days where we're really required, called upon, invited, inspired to do Teshuvah. So let's talk about what doing Teshuvah means. So Teshuvah is a noun in Hebrew. It means to repent. It means to atone. So that's kind of the how we use it in context of the high holy days. However, literally, it means lashuv, to turn around, to turn away, or to return, right? And there's a beautiful Shlomo Carlebach song, "Return again, return to the one that to who you are, return to who you are and who you really want to be." So return, so it's teshuvah, literally. But in context, it means to repent, to correct, to self-correct. How's that? That's such a better word. Do an assessment, and then self-correct. There you go. So there's some contemporary language that we can use for accounting of the soul, and repentance. We can use just do some soul searching, and then make some self-corrections. Yeah, based on that soul search. So what is teshuvah, right? Right, it's during the month of Elul, cheshbon hanefesh, right? They say tallying your soul, right? And so there you have the metaphor of the shopping, right? You're tallying, saying, oh, this costs that much. Okay, I paid that price. Excellent. And I guess it's the emotional accounting, right? The soulful accounting. That happened. Okay, check. Right. Oh, missed that opportunity. I feel bad about that, right? And then come slichot and the shofar also help us with that tallying process. So how? So all right. So slichot is a service that comes right before Rosh Hashanah, the Saturday night before Rosh Hashanah. Not too close. If it's a couple days, then it's a week and a couple days. But it's the Saturday night before Rosh Hashanah, and that's called slichot. And what the goal there is it's an evening service, a nighttime service, originally at the stroke of midnight. The Chazan would turn to God in his highest elevated prayers to reach God before Rosh Hashanah. That's sort of this entry point of, okay, here I go, I'm about to start this experience. And at midnight, in the midnight hour, the Chazan would be pleading with God, slichot, and the community would come for that experience. Now, we start a little earlier. We start at like 10 o'clock or 9:45, and we usually do sort of a cheshbon hanefesh program beforehand, some sort of soul accounting before, and then the traditional slichot service. And of course, you've got the shofar that helps us with this kind of cheshbon hanefesh. How does the shofar help? So here's the story of the shofar. Once upon a time, there was a group of rabbis in the city of Chelm. Something about the city of Chelm, right? So Chelm is a Yiddish folk place in the Yiddish imagination, and they sort of outsmart themselves. They're really not very smart people, but they always seem to like do the wrong thing and with the right intentions. And so here's what happened in Chelm one summer. It was there were fires that were erupting all around Chelm and all around, and some cities around Chelm started getting fire engines and fire bells and alarm bells and started creating a system to help with the fires. And so some leaders in Chelm went over to the next city, and they said fire. They saw how it works. They rang the bell, and all the firemen came and put out the fire. And so they came back to Chelm and said, look, this is great system, right? You ring the bell, right? And then the fire goes out. And so that's what they did. And the firemen come and put out the fire. And then so the next time a fire came out, they rang a giant bell and rang and rang and rang and rang. Nothing happened. And the place burned down. And then they went back to the city and said, what happened? Like, we rang the bell and nobody came. And they said, well, it's not about ringing the bell. It's what you do when you hear the bell ringing, then you put out the fire. And say, oh, and they went back and they self-corrected in Chelm. Right? And so that's what we do, right? We don't blow the shofar to hear the shofar. We blow the shofar to do some self-assessment, to do the accounting, to break us open, right? And to say, I really need to work on this and I need to work on that. And so there are different ways that we do that with the shofar, and the shofar has different sounds, right? It has different sounds that fit different emotions, right? The tekiah is a triumphal, energetic blast, right? Shvarim, right, is broken blasts, 3 broken blasts. Shever means to break, lishbor, and then trua is a series of blasts of short staccato notes, and so it's supposed to, I think, be imitating the cries of the Sephardi, community. It's used in joyful, but also I think in sorrowful moments. So we have these strange sounds coming out of the shofar in order to help us emote, not just to listen, but to emote, right? And so here we go. Then Rosh Hashanah begins. Yes, Charles, please.
Okay. Effectively, there is the slichot, like one whole night.
Yeah.
We do it, from about 10 o'clock until 6 a.m. or what. But what we used to do also during the month of ELUL,
Yes.
and I don't remember for how long,
Yes.
we would do the shahrit
Earlier, yeah.
at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And do slichot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so right, I was describing our contemporary tradition in shul here in Houston, but in Orthodox communities, the whole month of ELUL, there's special additions to the morning service, quite lengthy additions, and so they start like 45 minutes before they usually start to do the additional slichot service each and every morning. And it's quite a service, right? I don't know, right? It's like yelling and screaming and davening and pleading. And right, in some communities, who daven early anyway, they daven before sunrise. They get up and there's and I remember being in Sfat, right, with some Mekubalim during the Slifot service, and they were blowing shofar, which is, it was just a morning service, like, but it was like 4 a.m. and they're screaming and blowing shofar, and it was quite a scene. So yeah, Slifot are the way for us to emotionally begin to enter the high holidays. Thank you for adding that, Charles. All right, and then beautiful. So we go from Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah, right? We have Yom HaZikaron. It's the day of remembering. It's a day of memory. It's a coronation, right? So there's a lot of Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, God, you are King, and this is your coronation. And a lot of the liturgy focuses on that, right? And that grandeur, that splendor, and the music too. Lends itself towards the more triumphal, celebratory. Let me think of an example. Adonai, Adonai, Rachum Befanu. That's a more Shalosh Regalim. But let's think. Oh, da, 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 da. It's a major key, right? And it's we're standing upright and we are singing heartily, right? Which means that it's a proclamation, right? And so that's the energy of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Truah, Mikra Kodesh. It's a day of holiness, and we blow the shofar blast. Right? That's the main biblical charge on Rosh Hashanah, is to hear the shofar being blown. It's the day of shofar. Back in our history, it was, I think, more sort of toward the regal proclamation of the new year for God the King. But these days, we also use it as this cheshbon hanefesh, this soul accounting that can be both joyful and triumphant, and vulnerable and heartbreaking, right? And so we've added that sensitivity piece, I think, in the contemporary era. Yeah, Mark Charles.
Also, what we used to do the first night or before, there was a dinner of Rosh Hashanah
Yes,
where we had like maybe 20 items to
exactly.
eat.
Yeah, it's here. Yeah, that's number 3. That's our third bullet point. Yeah, go please explain
Right,
it. Describe it.
right. And you know, there is like an apple, like fish, like a lot of different things, and there is a prayer for each and every one of them.
Yes, exactly, right. And so yeah, I'll describe that. The symbolic foods that we do on the first night of Rosh Hashanah,
Right.
right, is an elaborate tradition. That's where the apples and honey originates. That's where that comes from, because and each food is a symbolic food, right? So a different bracha based on either the name of the food or where the food comes from or something like that. And so we eat apples and honey, right, because we want to ritually wish each other a hearty and sweet new year. So apples and honey, right? And so it goes on from there. But so that's kind of the symbolic ritual energy, but there's also a spiritual component there, which is right. We imagine that Rosh Hashanah has this like primordial energy of birth, right, and creation, and it's this year of starting over. It's right. It's when the world was born, right? That's another. That's how we see it cosmically. Right? And, right. That's the day the world was born. Hayom Harat Olam. It's the birthday of the world, and so whatever we do on that day has an impact on the rest of the year, right? And so when we eat these symbolic foods, right, we're blessing the day so we can have a sweet new year for the rest of the year, right? And so there's actually some, spiritual component to this ritual dinner, right? So that's the first night, right? And then we have the 10 days of tshuva, in which we are called upon to actually to do 2 things, right? So there's some things that we do and we miss the mark between ourselves and God ritually, right? So we don't pray all the time. We should be praying more. We should be doing this more. We should be doing that more. Maybe I want to work on this more, on this. spiritual component of myself. And then there's the interpersonal, the folks that we do between people, right? And so that's that arena is more ripe for conflict and tension because it's such a daily experience, right? We're with people all day long, right? Either digitally these days or physically, but we're with people all day long, right? And so it's easy for us to make mistakes, easy for us to be a little insensitive. It's easy for us to make mistakes, right? In that arena of interpersonal communication and interpersonal relationships. Not to mention the people that we're so close to, right? The people that we're closest to, we can be most hurtful sometimes, just because of the intensity, the degree of intensity of the relationship, right? When you make a mistake in an intense relationship, it hurts more than making a mistake in a peripheral relationship, right? And so this is the time where we need to apologize to the people, to God, right? Ritually, but apologizing to people, there's nothing ritual about apologizing to each other. So we take the opportunity to say, hey, I know I missed the mark a few times this year. I can think of once or twice. I'm coming to you to ask for forgiveness for the things I did wrong and let you know that I'm going to be working on those things and do a little bit better. And it's an opening to a conversation, or it can be that's the whole conversation, right? Whatever whatever works for you, right? But the apology is the important part, right? To say, I recognize I made mistakes. I recognize I made mistakes with you, and I'm sorry for the hurt, and I'm going to be working on it, right? And that's the key piece, also, right? I'm sorry, and it's something I'm going to be working on. Good, and so that's between people making amends, and then during one example of a Jewish ritual to make amends with God, right, is the tashlich ceremony, in which we take crumbs of bread from the house, right, and toss them into the river, into a living body of water. And we say, these crumbs are like my sins, right? May they be tossed away into the ocean and wiped away because I'm ready for a new year and I'm serious about my apologies. And it's going to be a better year, right? So that's the ritual ceremony that we do to address sins between ourselves and God, between you and your maker, right? Those private moments, those spiritual moments, right? So that's the tashlich ceremony can help with. But the mistakes that we make between just being insensitive or being inconsiderate or just being rushed for time and not able to address the needs of the people around us, right? That requires a sincere apology, right? And that's what we do during the 10 days of Teshuvah. And it's hard, right? It's hard to apologize. As a rabbi, I've learned the beauty and art of the apology. It works if you're serious about it and serious to commit and committed to improvement, then it works. It's real, right? It helps make things better when mistakes happen, and it's a good system, right? So we can take advantage of that process in our own lives, right? So that we don't let things fester in our families and in ourselves. Yeah.
At Tashlich, we used to also take bread and we go to the beach because it was out of Tunis. It was by the beach. We'd go there.
And where is this? Remind us.
In Tunisia.
Tunisia. Beautiful.
Yeah. So this is like 6 kilometers from Tunis. I mean, there is water in Tunis, but that's the whole beach, okay? And we would go there, and the symbol of throwing bread is like we would throw our sins into the water.
Right. Exactly. Good. Yeah, right. And that's how we ritually cleanse ourselves of those sins that we can't apologize for, right? And so it helps us with that. And then we approach Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is right, our solemn day, and the charge is, and you should you should afflict yourselves, right? Is where the fasting comes from, and so it begins with the Kol Nidrei service, which is the eve of Yom Kippur, And then the next day is Yom Kippur Day. And then the end of the service, the end of Yom Kippur, is the Neila service, right, in which we right, open the ark and we have our last attempts at prayer for a good new year, a meaningful new year. So it starts at Kol Nidre, goes through Yom Kippur Day, and ends at Nila, and then comes the break fast, right? That we can do on our own, or many folks choose to do it in community. It becomes a social event, right, in many people's lives. So let's look at Yom Kippur and the 5 things that we're not allowed to do. Our prohibitions of Yom Kippur are much like the prohibitions of mourning, right? They share a lot of similarities of grieving and mourning. But here's what the idea is. No food, no drink, no sexual activity, no bathing or makeup, and no leather shoes, right? And so we can understand the food and the drink. This is, I think we want to stay away from our material needs and all things body, and we want to just focus on soul, right? So normally we have a good balance in Judaism, focusing on our body, focusing on our soul. We need both. And it sounds like ein kemach, ein Torah. If there's no food, there's no learning, right? We need to take care of our basic needs, right? And those are holy too, right? And so, but on Yom Kippur, we go extreme. Just for one day a year, we go extreme, and we say, you know what? The body, we don't want to deal with the body at all. Let's just imagine as if the body were dead. How about that? Let's just let the body die. We're not going to feed it. We're not going to drink it. We're not going to pay attention to our bodily needs. We're not going to dress it up. We're not going to make it comfortable. And we're just going to focus on the soul. We're going to put our bodies aside and just deal with the soul on Yom Kippur. And so that's the idea behind these prohibitions. They lead us to, right, we're almost play acting death, right? And actually we use the kittel, so some people use the kittel that they're going to be buried in on Yom Kippur. So they actually dress up in the kittel in their shroud on Yom Kippur. So it's and we deal out. Yizkor is a very holy Yizkor on Yom Kippur, right? We're dealing with this world and the next world. That's where we want to be, and the Kol Nidre prayers get us there. Right? The poetry of the prayers, right, is B'yeshiva Shel Mala, B'yeshiva Shel Mata, right, in this world and then in the next world. As we approach Yom Kippur, we want to join the two worlds, right? Dare Mala im Dare Mata. Those who live in the next world and those who live in this world join together for one day a year. And so we leave our bodies behind and we just focus on our souls. So there's the idea, right? And of the rituals and the other things. Also, I want to give opportunity for other folks too. Charles is contributing and I appreciate it. If other folks have questions or comments, please feel free to do so as well. Yeah, Charles.
Yeah, some people, not all, but some people would put in their shoes some like garbanzo, you know what it is? Like you make hummus with it.
Oh yeah, garbanzo beans. Yeah, what about those?
Yeah, but these were hard. They were like to eat them, you would put them in water for for the night,
right,
and then you cook them. But at Yom Kippur, and for penitence, if you like.
Yes, right. It's almost like a bodily penitence. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're afflicting ourselves. It gets a little scary because we don't really want to go there, right? but there is something like that. Yeah, it is something like
not everybody. Yeah.
Just a little bit of affliction is okay. Yeah. And you're right. Yeah. So the leather shoes are comfortable, right? And so we want to. That's the ancient history there. Is that we want to make sure we're not so comfortable, right? And for mourning also, we sit on a bench and not on a chair. Right? And so that's the idea. Good. And so let's talk a little bit about apology and teshuvah and what it means to repent in a Jewish context, right? I used the term earlier, self-correction. Let's see if it plays out in the laws in the Jewish laws. So when we talk Jewish law, one of the sources that we have is Maimonides. And Maimonides was an interesting scholar who lived in a couple of Cairo and in Egypt and in Spain. And so he is a global traveler and a doctor, a medical professional who worked in the palace somewhere. So he's a serious character and figure in the world and in Jewish law. And here's what he writes: what is complete tshuva? What does it mean to do tshuva? A person who confronts the same situation in which he sinned when he has the potential to commit the sin again, and nevertheless refrains and does not commit it because he has resolved to live differently, not because he's being watched or because he can't pull it off. It's that he's changed. His behavioral patterns have changed. Right? And so that's what it means to do tshuva, to have the opportunity to either to actually have that opportunity or to imagine that you would have that opportunity if it's not possible. And then, and you wouldn't, you're not the same person. You wouldn't choose those behaviors again. That's what it means to have complete tshuva. Anyone who verbalizes their confession aloud without resolving in their heart to change their ways, so if a person just talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk, can be compared to a person who immerses himself in a mikvah while holding the carcass of a slimy lizard in his hand. Right? So the carcass is dead, right? The carcass of a slimy lizard is like something that's completely impure in the spiritual sense, because you're contact with the dead thing, and it's a slimy lizard, and it's just in a spiritual purity scale. It's like one of the worst things you can touch, because then you have to go wash your hands and dip in a mikvah, and if you wanted to be pure and holy again, in a ritual sense, and so that's what he compares it to. So doing an apology without really meaning it is like going to the mikvah and trying to get yourself pure while holding something that's impure, right? And so it just doesn't work, right? It just doesn't make sense, right? So you know, it's just he wants to let us know how strongly he feels about meaning what you say. Don't just say I'm sorry, right? Just like you got to mean it, right? That's the key piece, right? And either that comes through or it doesn't, right? When you're saying you're sorry to someone, right? Tshuva and Yom Kippur alone, Tshuva and Yom Kippur, right? The rituals only atone for the sins between people and God, like ritual sins, like if a person ate forbidden food or worked on Shabbat and like ritual stuff. However, sins between human beings, right? For example, someone who injures someone, either on purpose or by accident, curses at someone, steals from someone, will not be forgiven until he seeks forgiveness from the person he harmed and makes the necessary restitution. Right? That's different, right? We know about religions that you can go to confession with the priest, and it's all. I'm sorry. Oh, I give away my religion. I don't know. I'm sure there are other religions that do the same thing, right? But you don't really have. You're not forced. You're not coerced, compelled to address the person themselves, right? So here, right, it just doesn't work. You can't come and daven the hurt away. You have to go address the person. So a very pragmatic, practical, religious perspective that I'm proud of. Yeah. So if one makes restitution and approaches another to ask forgiveness, and the offended party will not forgive. So that's a good question. So what if you apologize and apologize, and the person refuses to forgive you? What do you do then? Right? So here's what they did in the custom. Yeah. So here's the custom. He's Fred. Yeah. We know the one about asking 3 times, but here's even more. He should bring a group of his 3 friends with him, so bring witnesses, and approach him again and say, look, if you're not going to forgive me in private, maybe you'll forgive me in public. If the offended person is still not appeased, he should return a 2nd time and then a 3rd time. If the person continues to refuse to grant forgiveness, you may leave him alone. And the person who refuses to forgive is the one considered the sinner, right? You have to forgive, right? You can't hold a grudge, right? You can hold it once, you can hold it twice, you can hold it 3 times, but that's it. And after that, you're at fault at that point, right? Assuming that, you're doing it for real. This is a sincere apology. You can't just be, I'm sorry. As kids, I think we did that. Yeah. I asked you 3 times, you have to forgive me. Right? They have to be sincere efforts.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. And so let's go to one more text. Here, I'm going to stop sharing here for a second. And with my newfound freedom, open up another text. Open up another document. And we'll see if it works. All right. Does that work? Yeah. Untitled Chapter. Right. So here's an example of one of the prayers that we recite on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, and how all these themes fit in. So I want to see how all these themes of tshuva and repentance and coronation kind of all blend in, and soul searching and accounting all blend into what we have in our machzor, what we have in our holiday prayers. So here we go. We shall ascribe holiness to this day. Right, this day is holy. Let's recognize that for it's awesome and terrifying. Right, so there's the Yamim Noraim. It is Nora and Ayom. So it's an awesome day. Right, it's a day filled with awesomeness, right, overwhelming emotion and reality. Your kingship is exalted upon it. Right, and so we go back to that kingship metaphor for God, which is a difficult metaphor. Let's just pause for a moment and say, right? So especially in America, right? America was founded upon rejecting the monarchy, right? And so like, God, you are my king. Like, well, how do we even deal with that, right? We don't like kings very much anymore, right? We think they're, anyway, so how do we deal with that? It's hard. I don't have a great answer, right? So some rabbis and scholars are approaching it with new liturgy. Let's make some liturgical changes and modifications that will help us with our metaphors. And others say, no, you just gotta like bend your brain a little bit. Like we don't mean a king. We don't mean we're not like rooting for monarchy here. What we're doing is right, trying to relate with God, right? And king means powerful. That's what king means. King means powerful, and you are that source of power, right? So, but it's hard, right? Let's put it out there. The more we stray from the monarchy and reject the monarchy, the more difficult it is to relate to God as king in a positive way. So here we are, but here it is. But you are the one who inscribes and seals, remembering all that is forgotten. You are consciousness. You are all. You open the book of remembrance, which speaks for itself, and the signature of each person is found there. We all live together in this reality. You know what's happening, and I know what's happening. And so let's get vulnerable, right, and open, right? So that's, I'm overlaying some of the emotional work that we have to do onto our liturgy, right? So I'm marrying the two, right? So now that we know that we have to do this emotional work, when we look at these prayers, right, we can look at them through this lens of how is this going to help? How does this prayer help me emote? How does this prayer help me put my life in better perspective? How does this, right? And that's the work that we do, right? It's called avodah shebalev. Prayer is called work of the heart. Right? It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be difficult, and especially or challenging, especially on Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah all the time. Really, we should come to prayer, especially the Amidah, our silent prayer, ready to engage in some soul searching. But especially on the high holidays, given all the preparation and all the opportunity that we have, and the support systems that we have around us, like the whole month of ELUL, et cetera, right? That we need to get to this deeper place, and this awesome place, this higher place on Rosh Hashanah. So here's 10 ways to get more from the high holidays, a few tips, right, for us on our journey. Participate in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services, right? So find a place that connects with you, that resonates with you, to daven on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We do our thing here, and it works for a lot of us. but there are a lot of different ways to daven and connect, more progressive ways, more traditional ways, and really explore those opportunities. And it's important to have a grasp of, all that happens in the Jewish world in order to make an informed choice, right? Even when you figure out that Jerusalem is the best place to be. But either way, you should make an informed choice. Good. A fast on Yom Kippur, it's hard and effective tool, right? In the spiritual world. A lot of people, Buddhists, right? A lot of folks have used fasting, Native Americans, as a spiritual path. I don't know how or what, I don't know the physiology, but I guess it helps with your spiritual quest. Read about the high holidays during the month of Elul, right? Start early, get a book now on the high holidays. Purchase your own machzor. I love that, right? So we use the machzor Lev Shalem. It's a beautiful brown book with lots of great poetry and readings in it. If you have your own, you can start reading it now, or borrow one from the shul. I will gladly lend it out, right? And so some additional reading before we take, last questions are the Machzor Lev Shalem, which we love. That's a great book. The Corin Sachs, right, is nice. Days of Awe is beautiful, and On Wings of Awe is the Reform book. This is a classic, Alan Liu. This is real, and you are completely unprepared. If you're looking for a high holiday book, that's a great one, and easy to read, and takes you on a journey. Alav Hashalom, Alan Liu, great conservative rabbi, and a deep spiritualist, using a lot of meditation in his life and in his journey. And so those are the books. Engage in thorough cheshbon hanefesh, right? Take a good hard look at yourself. That's what we're trying to do, right? That's what we're trying to do, the cheshbon hanefesh part, the teshuvah piece, to help us live a better life. The high holidays can be an excellent tool, right, in so many different ways. And so now that we know what we're after, right, we can start thinking about this year's high holidays, right? So last year's high holidays were digital and online. And we did the best we could with the tools that we had. And this year is we're going to be different also, right? So we're imagining there's going to be a hybrid experience, that there are going to be a lot of people who need and want to gather, and our medical advisory committee will find ways of helping us gather. We don't know what will be happening medically around the end of August, beginning of September, but we're going to find out soon. And we'll just be complying with the CDC recommendations that are out there, and doing the best we can to manage our way through this. But we know that some of it's going to be physical and some of it will be digital. There are those who are not going to be ready this holidays to return so fast, either because of medical reasons or psychological reasons, is not ready to come back in person. And so we will be hosting, right, a digital experience, but we just don't know how intensive it'll look at this point. We're still trying to figure that out. If it's going to be a live stream or a participatory hybrid experience, we're trying to make our way through those decisions. But always, I think this class has helped me refocus my attention to the goal, what the goal is, right? The goal is to help people experience cheshbon hanefesh, to experience teshuvah, which is to experience an accounting of the soul, to experience, what am I doing right this year? What am I doing wrong this year? And how am I going to commit to making it better next year? And so I will keep that top of mind when we start making these decisions. What's the best way to enable that goal, right? And so thank you. So if anybody has any questions or comments, we have a few more minutes. All right, thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, in the previous page, then the one that we stopped,
yeah,
there is a list of names, and you said this is Reform, this is Conservative. I noticed that there is Simon Wiesenthal.
Yes, yes.
Is that the same as the one who ran after the Nazis?
Let me see what that was. Their interest in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
The Sunflower, on the Possibilities and Limits of Forgiveness. It's an interesting book. You know that book? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's him. That's him.
Yeah.
There is a guy at Yad Vashem who runs, the chasing the Nazis.
Yes.
And when I went to take a class there, he's always there, like for an hour or whatever.
Beautiful. Yeah, the man is Ephraim Zuroff, who's still
Yeah,
chasing.
he's a lawyer, and he's really amazing.
Yeah. And the point there is, it's a conundrum in forgiveness. The question is, can we forgive Can we forgive the next generation of Germans, whose grandparents were Nazis, right, and who are seeking forgiveness? Some are seeking forgiveness, some are not. But for those who are seeking forgiveness, are we empowered? Are we able to offer them forgiveness? Yeah, and the general consensus seems to be no.
Yeah.
That's the general consensus. That we can't forgive the sins on behalf of our ancestors. They're already died. We can't forgive, for them. Yeah, Charles.
A couple of Sundays ago, I was invited by a group and they had like a march of remembrance.
Yes.
It's like the march of life in Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And those people, the people who started that, they really are Christians. And the first time I was exposed to this, I was invited by Survivor for dinner.
Mhm.
And when I arrived, there were 3 other women, including a German woman.
Yes, I'm familiar with. Yeah.
And so we had the dinner. And what I learned there is that in Germany, and that was one of the organizer of that,
Mhm.
all the children or a lot of children from Nazis, they wrote a book to break the silence.
Right.
But then they organized, seminars all over Germany, France, whatever. And so they gave me one of their books. And so, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, this woman calls me and says, would you like to participate in the March of Remembrance? And she was one of the attendants, and she's the president of that group. But a lot of those participants are truly repentant Christians. They love Israel.
Yes.
So there were a lot of people talking, including the consul general.
Yeah.
And what they asked me to talk about was the death marches. After at the end, it was very impressive.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and so it's a conundrum for us, a philosophical conundrum of how can we wrap our heads around this interpersonal request, which is the request to for reconciliation and forgiveness to the Jewish community. Right? They're really asking for forgiveness, and but I don't know about that, but they're repenting. Right? They are repenting for sure, and so they're an interesting model for how to go through that process of, right? We struggle with that in America, right? Are we responsible for the sins of our ancestors, or are we past that? Right?
Exactly.
And so that's an very interesting religious model of no, even if you're not to blame, it was your parents who did it. There's still a process to go through. There's still some lingering residue, and that needs to be dealt with. Right. And so kol hakavod for them for dealing with it. Yeah, they're amazing.
It's a way for them to clean themselves from the trauma, that they couldn't believe that the grandfather or the father was.
Right. Yeah.
And so they use that as a, psychological way but it's done at very, very big, it's huge in Germany. They have that,
It's fascinating. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so that's on the topic of forgiveness, right? And so sometimes we forget that the holidays is really all about that, right? It's all about forgiveness and atonement, right? And yes, it's about community. Yes, it's about celebrating, friends and family. But the heart of it, the heart and soul of it is about these kinds of conversations around forgiveness and reconciliation and elevation, taking one step more higher, right? And so Baruch Hashem, we have that opportunity every year when the high holidays come around. So thank you all for the session. I appreciate your connection here, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Of course, yeah. I feel your presence.